after him, in which he knew, he knows the future, but he looked at us here and thought, what if I didn't die for these people? Where would they be? What if I didn't die for this person? Where would they be? He looked through all this pain and suffering to the salvation and grace he would be providing to people if he follows God's will. And the greatest thing about Jesus is that he allowed his heart to be led by God. His thoughts, his mind, his actions, they were all led by God. And this shows that God and Jesus were really close, because when we are not close with God, it's hard to actually see what his will for us is. It's hard to differentiate our will from God's will. But once we're close with God, it shows the connection, allows us to know that God wants me to do this and God doesn't want me to do this. When we have this nice connection, with your friend, if you two are walking and you see, ice cream, you both know you want it because you're close. You know that we both want this ice cream. And you don't even have to turn to the person to be like, can we get ice cream? You're both walking there. That's how we should be like God. We should have this strong connection that when two options come, we already know that God will want me to go this way, not this way. We should already know this stuff. And also, trusting God in the storm doesn't mean we won't face pain. We will face pain. And Jesus clarified that. He said that doesn't mean you're going to have a bed of roses if I'm guiding you. That doesn't mean I'm going to keep you from suffering. But in the suffering, he promised that he will give us grace and strength to go through it. And we should always know that we are not alone and that God will always be with us, even when he's leading us. And we should always remember that it's not always going to be nice. It's not always going to be up every time. Sometimes we have to go down to just see his power and grace that he uses to take us back up. And here in Proverbs 1:27, verse 1 to 2, it tells us about the way that sometimes when we say we want to lean through our own way, we all do it in vain. Because it says, unless the Lord builds the house, the labor in vain who builds it. And it's really funny because unless the Lord builds the house, that labor, they do it in vain, because you may build a house, it might look steady, but in the end result, it's all going to come crashing down because we use our own knowledges, and our knowledge is not to be measured up with God. And then when the Lord builds it, it's but it was the same thing. It's the exact same thing. But you see that God's house is way more steadier because he knows this stuff that we don't know. There's a lot we don't know that God knows. He knows everything. So we should always believe that he will always be with us. And when we think that our way seems right, like the house we may build, it may look the same, but on the end of it, it's always going to come crashing down, and God's house is going to always be steady. And we want to be with the steady house. We don't want to be in the one that's going to come crumbling down in a few weeks, because everything may seem nice, and it's oh, I did this, and look, everything's nice, but sometimes it's going to blow up all in our faces, and we're going to regret it. So we don't regret things, we should just follow God. And it says here that we shouldn't, Ecclesiastes says that 10 verse 15, it talks about the laborers. The labor of fool worries them, but they do not even know how to go to the city. At first I didn't know what this verse meant, but later on it says, don't labor like a fool. Wait on God for divine guidance and strategies. Make him your principal partner. Let him give you strategies that will work and result will last. Just like the house. The house we build, it's not going to last. But the one God builds is going to last forever and ever to eternity. So we shouldn't labor like fools. We shouldn't think that our hard work is going to get us anywhere. Unless God is with us, our hard work is all going to be in vain. And we don't want that to happen. And also here it says that the people, that foolish people wear themselves out because they do not know what they're doing. Not even something like finding the way to town. It teaches us that working hard without wisdom or direction just leads to frustration. And it's like the other thing I was saying, because sometimes at the end of it, we're gonna regret what we did. We're gonna be frustrated because it's gonna be like, and I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that. But God does it once and everything just falls into place. So we should always follow. And here it says that when we ask why a good God would allow suffering, we must remember that we are not living in the world that God originally created, but this world that is already tinted with sin. And when Adam and Eve entered rebellion, when they chose rebellion, we have to live with the side effects of this choice. But the grace of God will always be with us through the side effects, because he's not just going to leave us here. And that's why he sent Jesus, so he can grant us mercy, salvation, and grace to keep going through this time on earth before he takes us to heaven. And even though there's war and there may be sickness and everything, we should always remember that one day Jesus is going to come back and take us home, and all this is going to be worth it because we have our reward now. And we should always remember that our reward is in heaven. We should also remember that even in this broken world, God is still in control. He still loves us and he is faithful. And as we face these difficult days ahead us, let us hold on to that truth, that God will always be with us and he's always faithful. He will never leave his people alone. So the moral of the sermon is to always follow God's leading. We shouldn't stray. We shouldn't think that everything's going to be perfect. And I pray that we will always learn to follow God's leading. It's the end, guys.